Good evening. Welcome to today's edition of Let's Talk About. Let's Talk About is a program put together by Trinity United Church to enable us discuss topical issues that front us as Christians. For today's edition, we'll be discussing menopause. And menopause is a phase in life that affects mostly women. And today we want to understand its cause, its effects, how to prevent it. It cannot be prevented, but how to manage it. Yes. And with me this evening is Dr. Michael McCarthy. He has dedicated his life and his life career to the well-being of female reproduction or the female reproductive system. And there's a calling he shared, or his father shared with him. His father was Dr. T.O. McCarthy. He was the founder of Senile Specialist Family Hospital, which is located in Tema. And so we are also here with Mrs. Vesta Akosia Educhumwanunu. And she's a member of Trinity United Church. And she's here to share her personal experience of menopause with us today. Please, you are welcome. Okay. And our production is running live on Facebook and YouTube at Trinity United Church, Legon. You can also send us a WhatsApp message or comment on 050-157-9996. And so please put your seatbelts on and join us as we discuss menopause this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I will start with Dr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Please, what is menopause?
Right. So we're discussing something that is very important, and that happens to every woman at some point or the other in their lifetime. Women start off with their reproductive lifetime at puberty, when they start developing their puberty features, and then at a point they get their first menstrual period, which we call the menarche, the first time when one has menses. And she'll continue to have menses at some rate, usually approximately one time every month, for a major part of her life. But the time will come usually from 40, 45, 50, around that age, when these regular menses will stop. If the menses have stopped for a total of about a year, then we'll say this is menopause. So simply put, menopause is the cessation of regular menses for at least a year. And it is a phase in the reproductive life cycle of a woman.
Okay. Is there any particular organ that's responsible for menopause?
Right. So menopause really affects the entire body. But the major part responsible is the ovaries. So the ovaries have the eggs, and the eggs are what is responsible for creating the estrogen and the progesterone that create all the features, or the female reproductive features. However, the ovary is controlled by other hormones in the brain. And so those hormones like FSH, LH go from the brain to the ovary to perform their function, and then the other smaller hormones around. But the main organ really is the ovaries. And then the effect is seen in other places, like the uterus, like the breast, like the vaginal epithelium. And so it's like the whole body is involved, but the major organs are the ovaries. Yes.
So is there a point in time in a woman's life where she can decide that she's menopausal now? Or it has to be a medical decision from a doctor?
I'll say it's both. The average age of menopause in Ghana is 48. So if you are getting to that age or a little bit past that age and you've not had your menses for a year, you can assume that this is menopause, and you'll very likely be correct.
Okay.
But there's some situations where menopause happens at a time where we're not expecting it to happen, maybe at 35. And then at that point, maybe you would need some medical intervention to make that diagnosis.
Okay. So Auntie Vesta, Or please, should we call it Auntie Educhumwa?
Vesta. Vesta will be good.
Vesta sounds really nice.
Yeah, Vesta is nice. Yeah, thank you. And I love the Duchumwa anyway.
Okay.
Okay. So Auntie Educhumwa, please, what is your experience with menopause?
Menopause, yeah.
Yes, the age when it started, your experience, everything.
I had menopause very early. I had menopause, I would say, at the age of 30, of which doctors say it's called prematured menopause. It started like 28, 29. You see, the doctor was saying that if it ceases for a whole year, that is where you can say that you are menopausal. So from the 28, 29 years, I could be there for 3, 4 months, then I'll menstruate once. 6 months, then I'll menstruate. Then it went for 8 months, then it's like 1 year, then 1.5 years, it came once, then at least 2 years I had. So I could say 30, 31, 32, by that time, then I've had menopause.
Okay.
So that's it. But at that time, I don't think the social media was there a lot. So it was something that was a bit scary. I think when I was young, I was having a bit of irregular menstruation. I could menstruate every 2 months or every 3 months. When we were in secondary school, when my friends, they don't have their pad, somebody will say, have you gone to check Vesta? Before you know, Vesta has got a pad. So it was like known amongst my friends, but we didn't take it serious. So we realized that it's always every other month or like something like that. So my mom got worried and then took me to see a Ghani. And then the Ghani said it could be a phase, it's irregular, but when I marry and I start giving birth, it will go. So it's not anything that we should be worried about. So because of that, menstruation has got its own stress. So me too, when it doesn't come, I was even happy that it was not coming, not knowing that it was something that I should have put an eye on it. So that is how I had menopause. So I had menopause quite early.
Okay. So Dr. McCarthy, please, she's saying she had menopause early. You gave us the average age for menopause in Ghana being 48.
Yes.
Is there an age range? Is there a prodrome to menopause?
Yes, so it doesn't just happen. As you can understand, it's a diagnosis that's made after the event has happened, right? So you're waiting for the 12 months. Okay. But other things are happening at the same time. Estrogen levels are going down. There's more FSH levels. So these are just hormones in the body. And so the changes that one will experience will start before the time that you actually have your last period. And some could actually start as early as 40, but usually a bit later, like 45 onwards, and you start having the changes. And some of the changes will even last after the last period has occurred. So you have a period during which there are changes are happening until you actually get to that point where you say, okay, now it is menopause. Okay. But you'd have had some symptoms way before. And she mentioned that her cycles were becoming irregular. You know, I don't know whether you ever got hot flashes.
Yes, yes, I did.
Yeah.
I think I'm very warm-blooded, even when I was a child, because I could remember when we were young, my mom's friends or something could come, and when they will hug you, they say, you are too warm. So I'm very warm-blooded already. But the hot flashes also came very early. I think in my late 20s, my late 20s, from 27, 28, 29, I have it. But it's something, I don't know, but it's like something I've lived with.
Yeah.
So you get the flashes all over your body. You feel that warmth with the warmth.
Hot flashes.
Yes.
What are some other symptoms of menopause?
Right, we've mentioned the irregular menses, we've mentioned the hot flashes, there's vaginal dryness, there's change in mood, there's loss of libido, there is changes inside that we cannot see in the cardiovascular system, changes in the bones as well.
Okay. Are there other changes in other parts of the body? So like the hair, the teeth, the mouth? Are there any such changes?
Well, some of the changes that are occurring can also be age related. Remember that most people will be 48, 50 onwards when they get their menopause, and then very soon they are 60, and before you realize they are 70. And so a lot of the changes are also age related. But the ones I've mentioned are the ones that are really tied very closely to the menopause.
So, Auntie Vesta, for your case, were you told, did they give you any reason why you were having early menopause?
Actually, what happened was I was at that time living in UK and I was married. So I think when it started like that, our concentration was not more on the cure of the menopause, but to try and correct the menses so I can have more children. So that is where the treatment first was. So it was to give me some medication so that they used to have this medication. I forgot, is it comment or something? The doctor, they used to have this medication. When you take it, then it can boost the menstruation to come. Okay. And then maybe they can test to see whether the ovaries, as the doctor is saying, is functioning well to re-correct the menses. So I went on that for some time as a treatment.
Okay.
So when it was not working, then that is where I saw a specialist. And then the specialist in King's College then said, no, this is symptoms of early menopause. So I went through all the tests. You know, they have the markers for the estrogen, all those medical tests. So when they see the markers, they have the range for premenopausal, range for menopausal, and range for those who are not menopause. So you run it for every 3 months to really see, as they are also working towards to see whether the menses will come. So that is where then it was really certain that no, this one was premature menopause. So it was declared by a specialist.
Okay.
And he was going to study on that. I think he said he had just started studying on those kind of irregular menses and things. So those were something like that. So yes.
So was there anybody in your family who also had such an experience?
It's amazing that I'm the only one. My mom, at the age of 55, was still menstruating. My mom, I think even at 57, was menstruating till he decided to do a surgery to take off the womb and things. So my mom had, after the surgery, before he couldn't menstruate. If not, my mom could have menstruated throughout. My siblings are all also menstruating. So it looks like I was the only one with that abnormality, actually. And my cousins were not that I know of.
Okay.
Yeah, not that I know of.
So, Mr. Dr. McCarthy, please, what are some of the risk factors for menopause when it's not natural?
Okay, let's say, first of all, menopause per se is not really a disease. It's just a stage of life, of the reproductive cycle. So your risk factor is being a woman, and then you go through that. But sometimes, as Vespa is showing us, the menopause happens too early. And that could be, and that is termed premature ovarian insufficiency or premature ovarian failure. And so it's not happening at the time we expect it to happen. And that is why it is a problem. Or it will be then called a disease entity in a way. And it has to do sometimes with some autoimmune diseases that can affect the ovarian follicles, and so the follicles are depleted, and then the ovary stops to function. But sometimes it goes with other things, like thyroid disease, adrenal disease, and other things. And so we have to look at those as well. Yes. Occasionally, it could be due to things like surgery. You mentioned that one of your female relatives had surgery at a point in time, and then that was the time that she went into what we would call surgical menopause, or when the ovaries are removed. And then obviously the menopause will occur instantly at that time. Or some people have chemotherapy, and so then they will have failure of the ovaries. There are a few people who are born with ovaries that already do not have any eggs at all. or very low number of eggs, and so they are born that way. But here we're talking about people who are not born that way. They will have their menarche or their first menses. They will go on to have some amount of time with regular menses. In your case, was at about 28, and then after that, this will occur.
So, Auntie Vesta or Auntie Educhumwa talked about her being given some treatments. That's to correct the hormones to help her menstruate normally, to help with childbearing. Can you please give us more light on that? It's called hormone replacement therapy.
Right. This is a nice perspective. Remember that we always need to treat something specific. We need to be clear with what we are treating. If the issue is that I would like to have another baby, I want to get pregnant, then the focus is on diagnosing why one is not getting pregnant, and then we'll treat what it was. So it may be that in your case, they diagnose that you are not ovulating regularly, and so they put you on medication to ovulate. However, sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes you may want to look at other reasons why the periods are not coming, because we said it's not having periods for at least a year. Of course, at a certain stage, you not wait for a year. So we want to find out why periods are not coming and try to understand what is going on. Is it that a hormone like prolactin is very high, or are there some other issues like the thyroid or the adrenal gland that are not working well? And investigate those things and then treat what the specific thing is. If we come down to the diagnosis that it is the ovary that is failing, then we know that we cannot reverse that. And so we have to put in measures to mitigate. Are there still some eggs that we can claim? Are there some things that we need to prevent in long-term health? You know, and can we address a psychological state as well? So those are how we'll try to manage it. We want to get a clear diagnosis. What is it? And then what are we trying to treat? And then tailor our treatment to that.
So if a patient comes at the age of 40 to 51 or 55 and comes with these symptoms, will you still treat in the same way? Will you try to do all the hormone tests and all of that? Or when the person comes at the age of 40 or 45, you think it's menopause, so we don't go through all of these exams?
Yes. So if you're having premenopausal symptoms at 45, we will start off with the assumption that this is what is happening. Unless there are other features that maybe we see that, well, maybe this may be more than just a perimenopausal set of symptoms. If we don't find any of those things, we'll just assume that it is so and manage you as somebody who is getting towards menopause. However, sometimes the symptoms are severe. Maybe hot flashes are affecting your work, are affecting your social life. Maybe vaginal dryness is creating a real problem, and so on. And then we'll put in some interventions. You mentioned hormone replacement therapy. Hormone replacement therapy has to do with replenishing the reproductive hormones to a level that we can alleviate some of the symptoms. And the most common symptoms that we try to look to alleviate are the hot flashes, because they create more discomfort and disrupt your life. Some, especially if they occur during sleep, will then affect your sleep and you not get enough rest. And some are very frequent and very severe during the daytime. And so that can be managed with some medication or hormone replacement.
Okay.
But then the other aspect is that we have to think about the longer term effects of not having periods from a cause of not having enough estrogen. So if you start having that situation early, before 40, then you become at risk of having, non-technically put, weaker bones, because you're not getting enough calcium, or your bone is broken down faster than it should be, because estrogen protects the bones from being broken down. And so when you don't have enough estrogen, then your bone is broken down faster. And if this happens 20 years earlier than it's supposed, 10 years, 15 years earlier than it's supposed to, then you're going to get your older age bone problems of the back and the hip earlier also. And so one needs to mitigate this by your diet, by exercise, by calcium, vitamin D, and so on.
Okay. So are there any adverse effects of this hormone replacement therapy?
Yes. Hormone replacement therapy is medication. And any medication, even if safe, has its adverse events,
Or
has
side
its
effects.
side effects, has its negative points. And so you'd only prescribe a medication like hormone replacement therapy when you have a clear goal. What do you want to achieve? I want to achieve resolution of the discomfort caused by hot flashes. Okay, so I'll give a certain dosage as lowest possible dosage. I'll also look at my duration of treatment and see whether I've solved the problem after 6 months, after 1 year, after 2 years. Because remember that some of these symptoms don't last forever. They last for a period of time, after which they may then reduce or stop altogether. And so you would want to tailor it to what you are trying to solve because of the side effects. If you give estrogen without ensuring that you get cyclical bleeding, then you are going to cause a situation where you overgrow the endometrium, which is the lining of the womb. And that can become a problem. So you don't want to do that. You want to prevent that. So you have to put in another medication to counteract that as well. Okay. But of course, if she's still having her cycles, that is not a very big problem because naturally then that is being sorted out. Remember also that estrogen, for example, can increase your risk of blood clots. And so you may want to watch that as well. But we don't jump straight to medication.
Okay.
We always look at what's the lifestyle change. Can I change my diet? Can I change my exercise pattern? Can I change my lifestyle? Can I change my weight? All these things are also part to try to reduce medications to the minimum.
Okay. So, Auntie Educhumwa, please, are you still using hormone, or do you still use hormone replacement therapy?
Actually, I did not actually. When it was diagnosed, as the doctor said, my specialist then in UK advised that I'm too young, so I should go through an HRT. The good thing is that there was so much materials because he wanted to study. There was so much materials for me to read about what it is. So after reading it, then I opted for a second opinion because they always give you the option to look for second opinion. So I will look for another second opinion with all the literatures. Then I saw that you could also change your lifestyle in terms of your diet and also take away stress, take away so many things that worry and all those things from your life, and you'll be fine. And actually, since mine too was like, as he said, there could be a problem that could cause the menopause. There could be, they even said there could be surgery, there could be all those things. None of those were my case. And when they do the scans, they could, the lining of the womb is thin, the womb is good, everything is good, just that it's not. So if I could do I do medicals, I think from age 30, I do my annuals twice in a year. Initially I try to check all the estrogen and all those things. I do my CA125, the marker. I do all those things, and then just breast examination because I was not 40. But I try to live a healthy life and a very simple life. And I also have a lovely family it's not stressful. So actually, they gave it to me for a month. I took it for a week. And then I opted out. So I never took HRT, never took it. For the hot flashes, I have it. But mine too is not very hot as in really. I don't, unfortunately for me, I don't sweat. So, some menopause, I have friends that I try to advise when they are going through the stage because I am now over 50. So my friends are now going through the stage. So I try to advise them, and they have this wave. I mean, I have somebody who can just be there, and then there is this sweat wave that is coming, and then all their body gets wet. And as doctors say, it can be embarrassing. There was a day I was going to a wedding with a friend, and he was dressed very well, but a bit off shoulder. Immediately we got off the car, then he had this sweat wave, and it drops. The sweat drops, but it's just the wave. That is the face. So immediately we have to go back into the car, and that was the first time I myself was experiencing the sweat wave they are talking about, and I was scared. But that is the only symptom she also has got, nothing more. So I really have the flashes mostly in the thigh, the back, all over, but I didn't do an HRT. I tried to take care of my foods very well. Fortunately for me, to my work, I travel to so many places. So anytime I get different kinds of, especially they said we should eat more of the greenies. Yeah, so the doctor said it. So I do that, and the bone thing is more important. So I think after 40, immediately after 40, then I started doing the mammogram to check on the breast, but for the scans and things I do. And then I think after 45, I did a DEXA scan to check my bones density.
Okay.
And then I did it at 4, I've done 3 times. I've done, I think, 40, 45, and 50. Every 5 years, I try to check my bone density to see that it's the normal aging density that I have as at now by grace. So I don't know, maybe God has a way of balancing it. So it's not that scary, it's not that serious as it's supposed to, people are supposed to think like that. Yeah. For the mood swings and things, I don't know about it. I know some people have that kind of experience, or they are hyper. I'm naturally hyper already, so I don't need menopause to make me hyper. So those are the things. I'm fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. McCarthy, please,
I can see.
with menopause, the perimenopausal time, when they have menses on and off, is there a risk of someone getting pregnant? Is that possible?
Yes, pregnancy is possible. It's possible even with the early stages of premature ovarian failure, because there may still be some ovulation happening, only that it may not be happening regularly. We also have some people who are about 40 who will also be able to get pregnant. But generally, once you've had your menopause of the definition 12 months no period, you are very unlikely to get pregnant because you are no more having ovulation, and the eggs are no more functioning in the ovary. They are depleted, and so you're not going to get pregnant. But the challenge is if you're much younger and you have premature ovarian failure and at 30, and what do you do? Because you don't have eggs anymore, and then we have to find other ways to address pregnancy.
Okay. So please, on a lighter note, so we see some people say that menopause, childbearing, pregnancy, childbirth, menstruation, all of those are as a result of Eve's disobedience. And so they are all part of the curse that was put on Eve, or the female, during God's time. Do we see menopause as a blessing, or it comes with the hot flashes and all of those other symptoms were still a curse?
Oh, I think childbirth is a blessing, pregnancy is a blessing, and menstruation is also a blessing. It's something that's happening in your system, and it can be extremely positive.
Menopause is also a blessing. I mean, it's the changing scenes of life. It's part of our being. What I learned from the literature I got in UK was that we are very low risk of getting breast cancer. The doctor could say it, but if you have early menopause, that you are worried about your bone, you have a very low risk of getting breast cancer, sure. So if you do the HRT, that is where the risk and things are in there. And then some people menstruate, and at times the whole of the week they are in the hospital. So if you have finished childbearing, you are married, you have your menopause, you are not menstruating again, for those stresses to go out. It's the state of mind, and it is a stage in your life. You are 20, you get to 30. You are 30, you get to 40. 40, you get to 50, 60, 70. So it's a stage in your life that you must enjoy it and position yourself to realize that it is a stage in your life. And as doctor also said, the symptoms comes and it goes. Somebody may get the hot flashes for 3 years, and then it will go. Some may get a sweet mood at the beginning, it will go. Some get, they can't sleep, and it will also go. So it's all like that.
So on that note, we'll take a short break and then we'll be right back. Thank you for watching.
This is GKV Foods, a community-based zero-waste agro-processing company focused on the coconut value chain. It came about as a result of the health condition of the owner. So I was diagnosed with diabetes, and a friend introduced me to coconut oil as a food supplement to help stabilize my sugars. So after a couple of months taking the oil, I realized that yes, there was a significant change in my sugars, which caused me to look more into the coconut oil as a food supplement. Our product is basically the coconut oil and then coconut powder, coconut shell charcoal. We are looking into other new products, including coconut snacks. Basically, we use the cold press methodology. So at no point do we add heat or any additive for that matter. So it's just pure coconut oil squeezed out of the coconut meat. We currently can do about 25,000 nuts a day. So 30,000 liters of coconut oil in a month.
This garden was opened in memory of Dr. T.O. McCarthy.
Probably around 1957. I moved back to Ghana, set up Sinel Specialist Hospital in 1982.
My name is Reverend Dr. Joyce Ayi. I am the privileged chair of the Sinel Hospital Board. 40 years ago, what started as a small enterprise with a vision of taking care of women and therefore families has grown to be a specialist hospital dedicated to families.
Myself, I'm a testimony to what Snell can do. And I say this not because they are here, but because 4 months of my life I lived in this hospital. I can say with my whole heart that if there's anywhere anybody wants to be in Ghana when it comes to medical care, it's Snell Medical Center.
Thank you.
Hello and welcome back to Let's Talk About. Today we are talking about menopause, and we have with us Dr. Michael McCarthy, who is the CEO of Sinel Specialist Family Hospital, and our very own Auntie Vesta Educhumwa Nunu. Yes, please. So we are talking about menopause this evening, and we want to remind our viewers that we are live on Facebook and YouTube at Trinity United Church, Legon. Please don't forget to send us your WhatsApp messages, your comments, your questions, and we'll be very glad to discuss and answer them as much as we can. Yes, please. So, please, you're also welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. So please, in Ghana or in Africa as a whole, we usually treat menopause as a disease. We see where we cast out our old women and we say they are witches, they are doing this, they are doing that. Please, what is your take on that and why? Why do you think we do that?
Oh, I don't think menopause is really the cause of such mistreatment of women. I think it has more to do with older age. We seem to have something for younger age, and then when you become older, then it becomes a little bit challenging. But the menopause itself is a natural thing that happens to women. It's a natural progression. You go from not having periods, to a time when you have periods, you're very fertile, you're childbearing, to a time when you're post-childbearing, and when you are now bringing up the next generation. So it's a phase of life, and we need to recognize it as such and then move on with it.
Vesta, you had menopause earlier, so you may not be able to tell us whether your parents or your mother spoke to you about it, as they will speak to you about childbearing. They even come and stay with you when you give birth. Do we usually have discussions with our children about menopause?
Actually, with me, it was a known thing in my family on my irregular menses. As I told you, it was my mom who took me to see the gynae for the first time after we have observed that this irregular menses is becoming frequent. So we spoke about it. And my mom's prayer always was the fact that I marry early, and we marry early, because she didn't know what it is. And graciously, all my siblings, we all marry very early. We have this slogan in our home by saying, we marry before 26. And it has happened. All my siblings, I married very early, and I'm the first child. So maybe that grace just flowed upon them. So we did that. So we had that. I have a daughter by grace, and I've been speaking. She knows about it, and she's 25. So I've been speaking to her. That's try to work on your relationship and things like that. And when I get people that are having irregular menses, I try to tell them not to joke with it. Initially, we thought, I'm not menstruating, I'm not seeing blood, it's discomfort. At times, you have soiled yourself, some have cramps, and for that matter, I'm okay with it. No, it's not. As the doctor said, there is an age limit for it. It should be after 45. So if you see that you're having irregular menses and things like that, it shouldn't be only for childbirth, because that one, they are specific and they will target. But for your well-being, for your health, because the menstruation also protects us from a lot of things, as the doctor said. So we should be able to look at it, see medication, and then try and seek help. It could be rectified, because my specialist told me that it could be rectified. It's just a matter of going through the stages and being prepared to work at it. So that's what I can say. Yeah.
So Dr. McCarthy, please, in the hospital, when someone is hitting 40, 45, do you openly discuss menopause with your patients?
Yes, I remember that people don't usually pay the gynecologist a courtesy call. There's usually a challenge or a problem, and then they would come. So they would come with whatever the complaint is, and that is the opportunity to ask about things like that. You know, how are periods going? How are the cycles? How is the flow? Is there any concern? So it's a proactive question that we ask. However, some people come with that as the main topic for discussion for the day. Maybe they are having period issues, or they are concerned about menopause, you know, and we take it depending on what the symptoms are, what the complaints of the patient are, and so on.
So aside your patients, what about family? Did you have daughters, your wife, your sisters? Are you able to talk to them about menopause?
Well, it's not a taboo discussion at all. So if there's need to discuss it, yes, we discuss. But I don't have a plan to say, I'm discussing this with my daughters, I'm discussing this with my wife. But if and when the topic comes up, we usually have quite interesting discussions going up, yes. So it's not a taboo topic at all.
So from now, will you make a part of your topics for discussion?
Yes, sure. I don't have problems talking about female reproductive problems or conditions.
But are there comorbidities that one can have during the menopausal period?
Yes, so one of the things less frequently spoken about is vaginal dryness, because there is not enough estrogen, and so you get more vaginal dryness. And that can cause some abnormal discharge. that can cause some abnormal sensations, itching, discomfort, burning sensations. That can cause challenges with urination as well. Some people then get more frequent urination. Some people get less support of the bladder, and therefore they may leak urine, especially when they cough, laugh, or sneeze. And these may be some of the challenges. Painful sexual intercourse may also be part of the problem because of vaginal dryness. And these areas are not very easy for women to bring up. And so this is a proactive question that we ask, when we are getting to that stage of the consultation, so that we can start to address those as well. Because there are some solutions for that as well, and we need to talk about them. The other areas of cardiovascular issues are also very important, because now at menopause, the woman is at risk of cholesterol buildup in her blood vessels, cardiovascular diseases of the heart, blood vessels, and so on. And so we may have to intervene on those. Basically talking about lifestyle changes, weight, cholesterol, blood sugar, exercise, and so on, so that we can mitigate those aspects of health as well. I'm happy you mentioned the issue about the bone and that you're doing a DEXA scan. I don't know so many women who do DEXA scans, but that's a very important one, especially if you have a premature ovarian failure or premature ovarian insufficiency, because it affects the bones. And so the preventive way of doing this is to increase your calcium intake, ensure you don't have vitamin D deficiency, manage your exercise pattern, because bones are built when there's more weight on them. So walking, exercise, and so on would increase the bone mass. When the bones are not being used, then the bone mass reduces. So calcium, vitamin D, and exercise. At a point, sometimes we need to do other things like medications, especially if your bone density is going down, then certain medications can be put in place as well. Yes.
Exercise, and usually when we say exercise, people think it's the gym. And I'm an old woman. How do I go to the gym? And so they decide not to exercise at all. Please, can you elaborate on the kind of exercises that we can do as old women or people who are menopausal?
Yes, it becomes a challenge for some people, but generally there are different types of exercising we talk about. First is the cardiovascular type of exercise, and then there is the weight-bearing type of exercise or resistance training. And we need a balance of both. So the cardiovascular is like walking, cycling, jogging, swimming, dancing, things like that bring up your heart rate. And so you need to look at, so what do you like to do? Some people like to dance. You look like somebody who likes to dance. I don't know whether I'm wrong. So some people can do dance. They can take up dance. And that can be very, very strong exercise. Depends on what kind of dance you do. Could be walk, could be jogging, could be even treadmill at home. And so we don't necessarily require the gym to be able to do this. Okay. You require some social circles. You require somebody to do this with, so that you don't postpone it too often. You need to have a desire to do some of these things, and it should be exciting for you. And once you get into the habit and routine, you're able to do cardiovascular exercise quite regularly. But apart from that, we also need to have a weight-bearing type or resistance type of exercise, like push-ups, like squats, lifting of weights, like even swimming, which will increase resistance to the muscles, and that is what builds muscle. Because one of the important things is increasing your muscle mass as you go into age. That's a little bit different from what we are discussing, but it also has a very positive effect, because increasing your muscle mass increases your metabolism, and so affects positively the other side. So we're talking about building muscle through resistance training and also cardiovascular exercise, as I've described. So if we have a balance between these two, that would be great. Going to a gym is great because that will give you a very professional help, and you have some good measurements of what you're doing. You can do some of these things at home as well, and can be extremely effective if you know what you are doing. And now there's so much resource. There's so much resource online. There are quite a number of gyms available. You can get trainers who can really help. Having a personal trainer can also help. It really depends on what's your motivation, what pushes you, what do you like to do, how do you like to organize your life. But I think we need to understand what we are talking about. So it's not just doing house chores and walking in the home that is exercise, but very intentional and calculated, and we know the time, the duration, and the outcome that we want.
Thank you. Please, for the symptoms of menopause,
Yes.
when should a patient or someone feel or think that it is extreme, I have to seek medical attention or medical advice?
Right. So the symptoms of menopause really have to do with how comfortable the woman feels. So if she has any concern that, no, I'm not comfortable, this is not what I'm expecting, and I don't know what this is, and I'm not comfortable with it, she can come to the hospital so that we can try to find out, okay, so what is going on? Is this even normal? Do you have any other issues which she may not be able to determine on her own? So if they start to affect your lifestyle and they start to affect your normal social functioning, then you would want to come to the hospital because we may be able to intervene. It's difficult to say, okay, so what's normal and what's not normal? Because what the type of hot flashes that somebody may experience may be well tolerated by her and may not be well tolerated enough by another person. So it's a little bit individualized, and we would usually want to see, is this having a negative impact on her life? And how is this affecting her? So if you have vaginal dryness and it's affecting your relationship, then you want to address it. And if you're not in a relationship, it's not a problem for you, you may not want to address it. You see, so it really depends on what is the real situation and circumstance. And then try to only solve the problems that are problems.
Okay.
And not try to, push the clock back 20 years or 10 years just for the sake of that. But you want to actually be addressing a challenge.
Okay, thank you. So we have a question by Mrs. Bumps. And she's asking, is there any form of anxiety attack during the onset of menopause? Is there any form of anxiety attack?
All right, menopause and its symptoms and the thought of it comes with some psychological challenges, some mood challenges, and some people may be extremely worried about what is going on. Maybe they have heard stories, maybe they have had somebody who has had a bad experience or very intolerable experience. And so when they may start having anxiety, or they may be extremely worried. And so this is somebody definitely would want to see and want to find out what is really going on. Is it really from the menopause or something else? Remember that we may also have an anxiety attack from other reasons completely. Or she may be extremely worried because maybe she hasn't fulfilled her life goals or her life dreams yet. Maybe she wanted 10 children and has only 8. Maybe she's very worried. So we need to understand what's going on with her, and that may be the cause for alarm. And then we try to address that. So sometimes the psychologists come in to address the issue, and sometimes it's medication, sometimes it's counseling, and sometimes it's just lifestyle change, And for some people, it's even just giving them adequate information about what is going on, and they may be fine. But definitely, if you're having a symptom like this, you need some help for us to really make a correct diagnosis, because what you assume may be the issue may not actually be so.
Thank you. We have another question from Darlene. She says, menopause is usually associated with anger, rage, talking so much. What really causes some women to exhibit all of these behavioral changes?
Right. I don't know whether you experience it, but you can tell us what's going on.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I think that's what Doctor is saying. I think at times it's the psychological thing. When we are old, like we think our mothers are talking too much when they are old, because things that are interested for us are not interested for them. They may be, how do I say it? They may be trying to say it too much and we don't want, because now we think we are old, we can take care of ourselves, and then we can take care of everything. So you think that the person is talking too much, that the person is very anxious, and because it's menopause, because we think that's what menopause brings. I don't think so. I think it could have something. Maybe the person is having a hot flashes. So the person is stressed. The person feels heat. He needs some fresh air and things like that. And then you are disturbing the person. So the person will then, but it's like also work. When you're so stressed with a lot of deliverables and you've given your work to a subordinate or a colleague who is not just getting the very simple things, you get frustrated. So because of the work, if maybe you didn't have much work or you didn't have much deadline, you would be calm. But because the deadline is approaching and the person keeps repeating the same mistakes, you would be upset. So it could be that is how come then the person is talking and things like that, because it's like when women are also in their menses. You should look at it from that angle. There are people in their menses, they don't want to eat, they don't want anything, they want to be indoors because they are having pain. So all that must be also looked at. Okay. It's not only because it's menopause, but it has got something a little to do with it. But we should be able to manage it. And the household should be able to also have that support, that house support to support the woman going through that menopause or something.
So Auntie Educhuma has asked one of my questions. So what support can we give to women who have menopause, like family-wise, also hospital-wise? Yes, please.
Yeah, family-wise, I mean, we should understand that this is what's going to happen and this is normal. This is a normal change. It's not a sickness or an illness. And so we, as you said earlier, we can talk about it more at home. Could be with the children, could be with the husband, so that we can have an open communication. So when things start happening, we can say, hey, this is what's going on. Okay. The woman must also feel that she has the support of her home, so that she can express herself freely and she can go through some of the symptoms without needing to hide them or to, be evasive and so on. But it could be an open conversation. We then need to understand how to manage things. Remember, things like frustration, anger may not even be from the menopause. Yes, it's a hormonal upheaval, and so one may be more irritable. But one can also learn to manage oneself more correctly and understand, okay, where's my irritation and anger coming from? Is it really somebody else's fault or is it my fault? The people in the household, could be her husband or her children, can also understand some of the things that cause irritation. Remember, sometimes some of the irritations are not even coming from the menopause, but just the fact that you may not have achieved certain life goals. Maybe you wanted to achieve something at a point in time. And menopause reminds you that you are growing old.
That's right.
And then that is annoying and frustrating, and so you get upset about that. And so you can learn to look at your life much more positively and see that, well, yeah, this is a transition. I'm going on to a higher order, and can review some of the expectations that you had for your life. Sometimes it's a financial issue. You have dreams and you think that, well, by this time I should have this amount of money, I should have so much money, and it's not really happening. And you're also growing older and the prospects are going down, you see. So there are many aspects to it, and I think we can see all the different aspects and try to see how to address them.
Okay, so Auntie,
the social issue as well, not just a medical issue.
Auntie Educhuma, how did your family help you?
Oh yeah, I have a very good family support, as I tell. My husband is wonderful. He's lived with it throughout, so very supportive. At times we even take advantage of the fact that we are menopause, so there are some things you hide behind, and then the person will be calm. For my extended family, it's a known thing. For my immediate family, it's a known thing. So, and there is not much change, actually. Maybe because I didn't experience a lot of not being menopausal, I can't talk about the difference between you were not, when you had your family, you were not menopausal. Because when I married, I was still having a little bit of irregular menses. Okay. But for about 4 years or something, that is your honeymoon, relaxing time, and then straight into menopause. So I don't have much, and I've married for over 25 years. So I don't have much of not having menopause as against having menopause.
Okay.
So it's like it's a normal thing. It's a very normal thing in the house. But doctor was talking about something also is the weight. Me, the only thing I didn't like about it is that you couldn't believe it. I was much slimmer than you. when I married, I was much slimmer. So it's the weight. Initially, during my 30s, when I gained the weight, I could be determined and I can immediately let it go by the exercises and things. But I realized that after 40, when you do it, it's not coming. But maybe it's work style, it's the travel, it's a lot of things. But the exercise, the doctor also said, is important. I've done every exercise. I've done the gym. I think I was in Buckingham Kim. I've done the gym before. I do walk a lot. I've even done boxing before because I learned it gives the muscles. So I've done the boxing exercise before. This year, every year, what I try to do is to have plan for my health, my well-being. After my medicals, look at the markers and see what is what. My friends calls me Nessa Planky. Like I don't have a degree in medicine, but I'm a nurse. So I try to have my health goals. It's very important for me because I'm coming. You see, the good thing also of the menopause is that when you realize that you have a deficiency, you try to work at it. Unlike when you think you are very okay. Yes. So I try to have my health goals and I don't joke with that. Example, like this year, I realized that for the past 3 years, I'm traveling too much on my job. So I was having the back pain. So I roll up to a physio. And initially I started with 2 times in a week when I'm around. At least I do once a week, or at least I do 2 or 3 times in a month. And that one I go for 2 hours. So I do 1 hour muscle exercise to firm the muscles. And then I do 1 hour physio massage. And I do it every month. Minimum is 3 times in a month. So I do that every month, the whole of the year. And I intend to keep it now, to have a plan till every time. And my mom, I've introduced my mom to that. And my mom also does that. My mom does a lot of physio massage, not the exercise. For the exercise, she does it with the chair, and she is over 70. So through menopause, age-wise, but a little exercise in the morning is important. Yeah.
See you for a lot of encouragement. So
You have to.
Mrs. Bams has another question, and she's saying, does menopause end? And if yes, at what age?
Well, you see, the word menopause, as we described earlier, refers to the last time you had your period. So once you've had that, that's it. So technically answering the question, I mean, menopause is that one time when that was your last period. So that's it. It begins and ends with that one period. But practically, when we're talking about menopause, we're describing the whole before and after and that whole period. The symptoms change. You may have much more symptoms at the beginning, and as you go into it and you go older, the symptoms may reduce, and for most people would even stop after a number of years, you know. But then the effects of less estrogen is there. You increase weight gain, less metabolism, increase muscle, reduce bone mass and so on, and the cardiovascular risk and so on. Those things continue to increase because you're also growing older.
Eli Team has a question. She says, does PCOS affect or prevent the onset of menopause?
No, PCOS is a different hormonal condition. It has to do more with how the ovary functions and how ovulation is triggered. So it's not the same thing at all. It's quite different, and it doesn't mean that those who are having no periods, you know, PCOS also causes absence of periods. It may look like menopause, but it's not actually menopause. So that's one of the things that if you're having an earlier supposed menopause, we try to look for PCOS as well.
Okay. So are there any particular foods or nutrients we should eat during this or during the menopausal period?
I would answer this during the menopausal period, yes, but also after. Increase calcium, increase vegetable and fiber for your gut, reduce unhealthy fat, increase protein, to be able to build up muscle, and these are the things that will help. So vegetables as well will increase this. And of course, always being well hydrated, having enough water so that your kidneys can also work well.
To try and eat. Are there any ones we should try stay away from?
You want to avoid foods that are going to make you put on more weight and less muscle.
Okay, like
You see, so definitely clearly refined sugar, too much fruit, and I'm not saying here that fruit is bad, but too much fruit will give too much sugar. So if you are taking above your proportion of fruits, then you're going to be having more fructose from there. So if you're going to eat a whole watermelon, you probably are taking too much sugar, so you have to have that in portions. And then direct sugars. As you're growing older, those will just become weight for you. So you can replace them with protein, because you need more protein, because your body absorbs less protein at the time. So you need more protein input. And then that will also help build your muscle and therefore improve your metabolism. And then you can manage things like diabetes and the excessive weight gain and so on.
we have a comment from our sister Martha Ofori. She says, very educative. I do agree menopause is a stage of life. So having a positive mindset towards it can help. Thank you, Martha. We have a question from our sister Sewa. She says, I would like to know if menopause can cause mental issues.
Mental illness comes on its own. The menopause may be the trigger point to push somebody into a mental illness, like somebody talked about the anxiety disorder, so maybe that triggers some anxiety in you, and so now you have a mental disorder like anxiety. But generally, menopause itself will not give you a mental disorder, but may act like a trigger. And any life event can do that. Could be marriage, could be death, could be divorce, could be childbirth, and we have that all the time, where some event, significant event, can affect the way your mind works.
So please, do you have any last comments for us, Auntie Vesta? One of our researchers, or one of the researchers, I read coconut oil can help with menopause, especially the vaginal dryness and all of those things. Do you have anything you can share with us?
It is. Coconut oil is healthy. I am coconut oil. I use coconut. I've been using coconut oil for the past 7 years.
Okay.
In my house, I use olive oil only for salads.
Okay.
But I use coconut oil to do everything. For my skin, for my hair, for my food. And also it's very good for the dryness. That one, I think it's a woman who told me that bought the coconut oil and said, you know what I use it for? I use it for dryness. And I tried it and it works. A lot of women use the jelly that the doctors give.
Okay.
But coconut oil is good. And as the doctor said, you get dry and you may get bruises.
Okay.
So I think coconut oil is also help for the bacteria.
Okay.
As a homemade remedy. So I have a bottle of coconut oil in my dressing mirror. That when I dress, I use it. Okay. When I'm about to sleep, I use it.
Okay.
So that one is very healthy for me.
Okay.
And then the good diet is also okay.
Okay.
As they are saying it.
Yes, please.
Be inquisitive about yourself. That's what I would say. Be very inquisitive. Know yourself. Know your system, and put in a bit of time for yourself, irrespective of your age or irrespective of the disease that you have, and you will be fine.
Amen.
I would say menopause is a normal stage in life, but if you think you have problems, please seek help.
That's right.
Okay. So I hope you've had fun. I had fun talking with Dr. McCarthy and Auntie Educhumwa this evening, and it's been insightful, and I hope you enjoyed it. So let's talk about, it's a production of Trinity United Church East Legon. Join us to worship this Sunday at 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. respectively. And my name is Mami. Have a good night. Thank you for watching.
This garden was opened in memory of Dr. T.O. McCarthy,